All right, I'm going to share my screen. Hey, so while everybody's getting a glass of water and getting comfortable, I'll let everybody know that today's webinar presentation is brought to you by O'Dough's, who are a delicious gluten-free company. And whether you're gluten intolerant or looking for a healthy, tasty bread, bagels, or more, O'Dough's is oh so good.
I see that down in the bottom, Darlene raised her hand.
Oh, okay.
Not sure if that's.
Oh, love some O'Dough's. Oh, hi, Brent. How you doing? Brent used to always come to my Facebook Lives.
Oh yes, I recognize the name from Facebook.
All right, so let's get started, everybody. So hello, good afternoon, good evening for wherever you're coming from. Oh, why does this look funny? My name is Nicole Byrom, and I'm a registered dietitian with Celiac Canada. I'm so used to saying with the Canadian Celiac Association, but for anybody who hasn't been aware that this is our 50th year, hence my background, and we are now officially Celiac Canada, which comes into line with the missions and values of our organization, our charity. So for anybody who didn't know, that's our new name. So welcome. And I'd also like to welcome tonight Kaylee McCauley, who is Celiac Canada's Health Promotions and Research Coordinator. Many of you will already know Kaylee. She's been with us for many, many years, but she doesn't often do the webinars with me. So I'm so excited to have you here tonight, Kaylee, to join me. And Kaylee's going to be doing the chat and keeping everybody up on that. So just a little bit of housework or housekeeping today. The chat we'll use to chat with each other. So actually, while we're chatting, pop where you are in the chat. I'm always curious where people are coming from in Canada. So I'm in North Vancouver right now, and Kaylee's all the way on the other side of the country on another ocean. She's in PEI, so we are on opposite ends of the country this evening. So let us know where you're joining us from tonight. I'm always curious to see what coast or what part of the country you are from. So always nice to see a wide, diverse spread of people from across Canada. So yeah, and then if you have any official questions, please pop those into the Q&A box. So the Q&A box you'll find along the bottom of your screen, and that is where I'll be gathering actually all the official questions that we'll be answering at the end of this talk. So tonight we're discussing healthy eating and the gluten-free diet. It's come up a lot in conversation of late that, the gluten-free diet isn't always the healthiest diet. So how can we combine healthy living with the gluten-free diet? And I also wanted to point out before we get started that today is Pink Shirt Day. It is anti-bullying day. And I wanted to just make note that sometimes people with celiac disease may feel like they're a little bit isolated or bullied or put down for their disease. So let's take today to just take a moment and pause and recognize that we too should be part of that, and be able to feel empowered and stand up for ourselves and empower people around us to learn and more about celiac disease, so there's not any stigmas attached to it. I would also like to take a moment to say that today's presentation was created on the unceded territories of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam nations, and we are grateful to play and live on these lands. So thank you so much. All right, time to move on. So today's agenda. You are more than celiac disease. What is healthy eating? What is Canada's food guide, and how does it kind of work for the gluten-free diet? Another kind of label reading, because I know you're all experts in gluten-free label reading. 5 steps, to healthy grocery shopping, healthy checklist, and summary. So this is a brand new presentation, never before done. I've just been creating this over the past couple of months. So it's a little bit of you guys are a fresh audience for this, and I hope that I keep to time. That's always my biggest thing. I'm long-winded and I talk way too much. So I'm going to keep it to time, I hope. Let's see. Okay, so for everybody here tonight, you're either living with celiac disease or gluten intolerance, or you are caregiving for somebody with celiac disease or gluten intolerance, or you just want to learn more about the gluten-free diet or healthy eating while on a gluten-free diet, which is fabulous. For all of you, we recognize, and I see you, and I see how hard it is, and I see how hard you've worked to really try to grasp how to read labels for the gluten-free diet, how to keep yourself safe, how to keep yourself from getting sick, how to keep your family members or your friends or your colleagues from getting sick, because there's nothing worse than glutening somebody or being glutened most of the time by total accident. So I recognize that you've done so much work to get here. It's been a steep learning curve. So well done. Huge kudos to you for getting this far. I couldn't help myself with that cat photo. I just loved it because it just spoke to me, because it's like, okay, we know how to read labels for gluten-free, but now what? Like, now what do we do? Now we can recognize brown ingredients. We know that gluten can never be hidden in labels here in Canada. We know the difference between a contained statement and a precautionary statement. We know the high risk and low risk food items, and we know what the 20 parts per million means. But what does that mean for my greater health picture? So I'm good. I'm gluten-free now. I know how to read the labels. I can follow the diet. If you can't, we also do a gluten-free 101 every month that we can help you with that. There's tons and tons of support for that as well. So if you still feel like, shoot, Nicole, I don't know how to read labels properly for that, then I've got the solution for you to that too. So go to our signups and get into a gluten-free 101 next month. But we also need to know, how do we prevent chronic illness? Fatty liver, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, obesity. These are all real issues that as a dietitian I see on a regular basis. So the literature tells us that being on a gluten-free diet can be challenging, and it can be unhealthy in some ways. So the gluten-free diet tends to be high in packaged foods, which are high in fat, salt, and sugar. And you know why they're high in fat, salt, and sugar? Because fat, salt, and sugar taste really good, and they put it into foods because they want it to taste better. They want it to be shelf stable, and they want people to buy it. But what happens is it makes it slightly less healthy for us. And it also makes it lower in fiber, vitamins, and minerals. So why the high level of prepackaged foods on the gluten-free diet? Well, sometimes the food doesn't taste that great to begin with. So we really have to add things to it to make it taste better. So we see that these products tend to be higher than their gluten-containing counterparts in fat, salt, and sugar. So there's a rising concern in the gluten-free community that this diet might actually lead to cardiometabolic risk and a modification of the gut microbiota. So we need to be really careful in now taking that next step to educate ourselves on how to live a healthier lifestyle while on the gluten-free diet. So I recognize that this is a little bit of a next level class. So what is healthy eating? People who tell us all the time, dietitians are constantly saying to eat a healthy diet, but what does that actually look like? So I'm going to share with you this short little video. And I think I have to share my sound with you. So I'm going to see if I can do that. Share sound. Okay. So you don't just hear me rambling on all the time. I'm going to quickly share this 1.5 minute video from Health Canada. All right. Hopefully everybody saw that okay. So that is Canada's Food Guide. So if anybody hasn't seen, this is new-ish to Canada's Food Guide. The old Canada's Food Guide, of course, was the rainbow. We adopted this new model a few years ago, and it shows 50% of the plate as colorful fruits and vegetables, a quarter of our plate as lean protein, and a quarter of our plate as healthy, high fiber starches. And I do want to point out that yes, in that video, that English muffin, we would have to have a gluten-free version of the English muffin. So remembering that we'll do some adaptations to Canada's food guides as we're chatting to make it gluten-free. So why the different categories? Why 50% fruits and vegetables? Why a quarter high fiber starch and a quarter lean protein? Well, this has been devised for a reason. So you'll notice that a lot of that food is not packaged, not processed foods. This is fresh, whole foods that we're trying to, and also a little bit leaning towards a plant-based style of eating. So vegetables and fruits are an important part of a healthy eating pattern, and they have been shown to lower our risk for heart disease. So as a dietitian, I'm constantly telling people and talking to people and educating people on what they can do to reduce their risk for long-term illness or disease. You know, longevity is important to most of us, and having that high level of quality of life is really important. So how do we do that? So fruits and vegetables are packed with nutrients like vitamins, minerals, and fiber. Canada's Food Guide actually specifically points out that we should be choosing dark green and dark orange, or orange choices more often. You know, these are dark green leafies, really rich in vitamins and minerals, and orange rich in, vitamin A. Remembering these are high density nutrient foods, low calorie dense foods. So 50% of our plate should be covered with the fruits and vegetables. I teach people also to eat across the rainbow. Different fruits and vegetables have different nutrients in them, different vitamins and minerals. Those different vitamins and minerals express different colors. So the more colors that we eat, the more variety of vitamins and minerals that our body will be getting. So if we eat across the rainbow, we're going to be ensuring that we get a good variety of nutrients. I often will get children to paint a rainbow. Do an art project with your kids, and you paint a big rainbow, and you get them to name as many fruits and vegetables as they can for each color. So like red peppers, strawberries, oranges, orange peppers, bananas. You go through, and then for every new item that they pick, they get a star on each one. And then when their rainbow is filled with stars, then that's a huge accomplishment for them to have named some new fruits and veg and been able to try them. So remembering that these are so essential for overall health and actually lower your risk for heart disease. Fruits and vegetables make great snacks, veggies and dips, adding kale to smoothies. Fruit on the go for a snack, bananas, apples, pears, fruit and yogurt is a great way to start your morning. I often tell people to start their breakfast with either oatmeal with fruit or yogurt and fruit. Remembering, going back to that Canada's Food Guide and showing the balance of meals. Oatmeal is a great way to start the morning, but just not on its own. Let's add some walnuts onto that oatmeal. Let's add some dark berries onto that oatmeal to really round it out to make it a balanced diet. The next category that we're going to talk about is the starches and fiber. Now, this is the category that really catches people with celiac disease because it's where we find the majority of gluten sources. So looking back on the fruits and vegetables category, those are low risk for gluten cross-contamination or finding gluten. Now, of course, if they're fried or deep fried or possible seasonings or sauces have been added, yes, definitely a possible source of gluten, but on their own, they are gluten-free. So looking at the starches and fiber, this is where you get, this is where wheat lives. This is where barley lives. So this is where we really see high levels of gluten. So, and this is where most people get a lot of their fiber from. So how do we ensure that we get enough fiber while on a gluten-free diet? So this is a question that we get asked all the time. So we know for a fact that whole grain foods have more fiber than refined grains. So we want to eat a diet high in whole grains. And what that means is that the husk has not been removed. We've kept the whole grain together and we haven't refined it and taken away all of the nutrients from it. We know that eating a diet high in fiber reduces your risk of stroke, colon cancer, heart disease, and type 2 diabetes. So guys, this is an important piece of our diet to add in. I see people all the time with high cholesterol levels. So when we're talking about heart disease, we're talking about cholesterol levels. And we know that by adding soluble fiber into your diet, you can reduce your cholesterol levels, in particular, your LDL cholesterol levels or your low density lipoprotein levels. So your cholesterol is made up of LDL, triglycerides, and HDL, high density lipoproteins. HDL is the good guys. They're the guys that go in and they tidy up all the LDL. Triglycerides are the ones that are attached more to blood sugar. And then low density lipoprotein or LDL, those are the ones that increase your risk of heart attack or stroke because it causes the sticky plaques that go on your arterial lining. So it goes in your arteries and can cause that sticky plaque buildup. So that's where we want to use fiber to help to clean that up and to reduce your level of LDL cholesterol in your body. So how do we do that on a gluten-free diet? Well, one of the number one sources of soluble fiber that I recommend to people is actually oats. So for us here at Celiac Canada, gluten-free oats are a definite possibility for soluble fiber if you're able to tolerate oats. Other good sources of soluble fiber come in the form of beans and legumes, chickpeas, lentils. All of those have really high levels of soluble fiber and are excellent source of both soluble and insoluble fiber, as well as a good source of protein, which we're going to get to next. So 1/4 of your plate should be starches and fiber. So what are some other healthy starches or healthy grains that we can choose on a gluten-free diet? Quinoa, which is actually another source of protein as well, but also high in fiber, and a whole grain rice. So rice is one of those low risk food items when it comes to the gluten-free diet. So as long as rice doesn't have any gluten containing ingredients in its ingredients list, or a may contain statement or a contain statement, then we know that it's safe. It doesn't have to carry a gluten-free claim. But white rice is a refined rice. So it's going to be higher. It's going to be lower, in fiber and higher on the glycemic index. Glycemic index is what we like to think about as like kindling for a fire versus a slow burning log. If you choose foods that are more refined, you're going to burn through them faster. And your blood sugar is going to spike up and go down, and you're going to be hungrier sooner. So we want to have more fiber in our diet and following a bit of a lower glycemic index to have that less of a curve on our blood sugar. And so we're hungrier later and our blood sugar curve is lower. So if you think about lower glycemic index being that slow burning log, higher glycemic index being that kindling of the fire that burns up quickly and then is gone. So that's what white rice is versus whole grain rice. Or it's harder with pasta with the gluten-free diet because most of our pasta, if it's rice-based, then that would be, but if we could get like a quinoa-based pasta, that would be a slower burn. So gluten-free oats are another good healthy grain. Corn is another good healthy grain. Again, remembering to look for that gluten-free sign on any corn refined products. Buckwheat and sorghum. So these grains provide fiber and nutrients and are essential for health, including cholesterol reduction. Okay. These are the grains that we want to reduce. And I know that we all love these grains so much. We love breakfast, bakery products, and sometimes sugary breakfast cereals, especially our kids do, prepackaged dishes. So we want to be really, careful anytime we're reading package labels to know that they're gluten-free, but B, recognizing that these shouldn't be habits. I talk to people a lot about the habits that we have in our life should be beneficial for our health. Every bite that we put in our mouths should count. Of course, we're going to have things. We're going to have a night where we go to the movies and we have popcorn. We're going to have pizza night. But what we do on a daily basis for breakfast, if we're having a refined gluten-free muffin every morning for breakfast, that's not giving our body very much nutrition when we choose that. So let's make those habits work in our favor overall. So again, going to that breakfast, and I talk about breakfast a lot because breakfast is such a great opportunity to have fiber and fruits and vegetables. If I say something on repeat, it's eat more fruits and vegetables. I feel like a broken record all the time. Eat more fruits and vegetables because they're they're low in calories and they're high nutrient density. So we really want to utilize that, and they give our body so many good things. So avoiding the refined grains and choosing more the whole grains. Protein category. So protein, first of all, how much protein do we need? About 0.8 to 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. So however many kilograms you weigh, you can do that calculation. Another easy way to know how much protein you need is to put your hand up. And a serving of protein is about the size of the palm in your hand. So however tall you are, your hands will be proportional. So that's a little trick to know how much protein you need. For starches, it's the size of your fist. And then for vegetables, it's 2 fists. But really, I always say unlimited, have as many fruits and vegetables as you want. So palm of your hand. So protein. Why do we need protein? So lean protein in particular, because protein foods are often, people think about, the animal-based protein foods. They tend to be higher in saturated fats, which we're going to talk about a little bit briefly. So we want to choose lean protein sources, so lower in fat, because animal products, saturated fat, which is bad for heart health. We want to choose things that are lower in that type of fat. But protein is essential, of course, for muscle building and muscle maintenance, for bones, for growth, for hormones. Protein is extremely important in our diet. It's not hard to come by in the Western diet. So I rarely see people with protein energy malnutrition. That's not something that comes into my office very often. But it is an important piece that we do need to talk about, because what protein choices we choose helps to dictate our health as well, and also our chronic disease risk. So trying to choose protein foods that come from plants every day. So Health Canada has really shifted the narrative on this, and we really want to try to choose plant-based protein choices every day. They provide more fiber, less saturated fat, and higher nutrients than other protein foods. So therefore can be very beneficial to heart health. So I've got some ideas on the left-hand side here. Of course, tofu, which is one of my absolute favorites. One of my favorite gluten-free tofu recipes is I take extra firm tofu and I cut it up. And then, so like in cubes, and then I mix it with cornstarch and gluten-free soy sauce and some oil, and I shake it up in a bag or in a bowl, and then I just bake it in the oven for 25 minutes, and it is delicious. Really, really good, and that's good thrown on top of a salad. Of course, other lean protein gluten-free choices come in the form of legumes, chickpeas, lentils, and please remember that lentils are a high-risk item, so buy them gluten-free or do a visual inspection for any rogue grains, and then rinse the lentils, because although I will say you can find gluten-free lentils on Amazon quite readily. That's where I always have lentils ready to go in the house. Chickpeas are another great option. Hummus is an amazing option as a plant-based, nutrient-dense protein source. And then I think at the top, that's either chicken or salmon. I'm not sure which that is, but of course, always an easy go-to as well for meals. But I would challenge each one of you to try to have plant-based protein every day, and try to have a plant-based meal once or twice a week. So other protein options, of course, eggs, lean meats and poultry, nuts and seeds, fish and shellfish. Fish, so everybody knows, is an unsaturated fat, high in omega-3 fatty acids, very good for heart health. Low-fat dairy products. We mention low fat because remembering dairy is animal, and dairy fat tends to be more saturated fat. Beans, peas, and lentils, fortified beverages, tofu, soybeans, and other soy products. I'll also mention that tofu is actually, most of it is fortified with calcium. So tofu is actually an excellent source of calcium as well. So very good, not only for protein, but actually for bone health as well. Protein makes a great snack. One of my favorites is the bottom right. I love peanut butter and celery, always have. Nuts and seeds, hard-boiled eggs, chickpeas, hummus and veggies, peanut butter and celery sticks, low-fat yogurt with fresh fruit. So all of these are good protein choices for a quick and easy snack. So types of fat. I've talked about this a little bit briefly, and I just think it warrants taking a couple of minutes to really discuss so you understand the different types of fat, because this is something, again, I speak about so often because I see so many people in my office with fatty liver and high cholesterol levels. So there's 3 types of fat. There's unsaturated fat, which is the good. There's saturated fat, which is the bad. And there's trans fats, which is the ugly. So let's talk about the good first. So unsaturated fats, those are good for our heart health. They're good for our body. They're what we need as humans to survive. We need fat in our diet. In fact, we should get about 30% of our calories from fat. So we need to know what type of fat, because a lot of our vitamins, don't forget, are fat soluble. Vitamins A, D, E, and K are all fat soluble vitamins, so require fat in our diet to actually utilize them. So when you're taking your vitamin D supplement, take it with a little bit of fat, take it with some avocado toast, so you're sure to absorb it properly. So unsaturated fats will help with that. They also help to lower that LDL cholesterol that I was talking about earlier. So the cholesterol, the type of cholesterol that increases your risk for heart disease, unsaturated fats will help to lower that. So olive oil. So if you think about unsaturated fats, the bonds are unsaturated. So liquid at room temperature, okay? So if you picture what's liquid at room temperature, olive oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, avocado oil, all of those things are unsaturated fats, very good for our heart health. Try to think about things that are from plants as well. Unsaturated fats tend to be from plants, which is one of the reasons why I was really trying to encourage you to lean in to a plant-based diet on occasion, or plant-based meals on occasion. So avocado, nuts, seeds, legumes, all of these things are high in unsaturated fats. The exception to it being plant-based is actually fish. So fish is the exception, that's animal, but it is an unsaturated fat. So high in omega-3 fatty acids, very good for your brain, good for your body. So thinking about a diet high in unsaturated fats, or 30%, with a source of unsaturated fats, so plant, and then some fish in there as well. Saturated fats, those are the ones that are coating your arteries and causing that clogged artery and the hardening of our arteries. So we want to choose that less often. So what is saturated fat? So if unsaturated fat is liquid at room temperature, saturated fat is solid at room temperature. Think about a block of butter sitting on your counter. That's going to be solid at room temperature. Think about chicken skin. Think about the white flecks in salami or prosciutto. All that white marbling, that's saturated fat. That is the type of fat that's not good for our bodies, that's going to increase our risk for heart disease and other chronic disease complications. So we want to keep saturated fat intakes to a minimum or down. We want to have those less often, and we don't want to make saturated fats a habit in our everyday diet. Lastly, we have trans fats, which are, thankfully, Health Canada banned trans fats from being put into commercial foods, but we do still find it in some foods. Oils that are cooked over and over and over again, like in fast food restaurants, become trans fats after a while. And some animal products also carry small amounts of trans fats. We see less trans fats nowadays than we used to. They used to be in commercial products like cookies and cakes, but thankfully they are no longer in those. But we do have to look out for deep fried foods. So staying out of the doors of the fast food restaurants, and again, only having those occasionally as treats rather than as habits. If you have a habit of going to McDonald's 3 times a week, we want to kind of shift that or make different choices while we're there. Okay, so what foods raise cholesterol levels? So if we're thinking about cholesterol, deep fried foods, red meat and cheese. Red meat is recommended only once or twice a month now. Low amounts of healthy fats, so we want to have those good fats in our diet. Sugar and refined carbohydrates, they increase those triglyceride levels in our cholesterol. And alcohol. Alcohol, again, increases that triglyceride level. There are new alcohol regulations out, just came out maybe a month ago, And really what they're describing now and talking about now is that there's no known safe amount of alcohol. So we used to say 1 drink a day for females and 2 drinks for males, but we are now saying that no amount of alcohol is considered safe, and up to 2 drinks per week is considered low risk. And primarily what we're looking at with alcohol, of course, is fatty liver and liver cirrhosis, and then also breast and colon cancer. So they're showing that 2 drinks and less per week are not increasing the risk for those things, but they're not committing to any level being safe. There'll be lots of questions about that, I'm sure, because I've had lots of questions about that. Eating less salt. So the Western diet tends to be very high in salt, and we see a lot of high blood pressure come through the doors. So most of the salt that I see in people's diet comes in the form of packaged foods, processed meats, canned soup, instant noodles, salts and nuts, pickles and olives, sauces, fast foods, frozen meals, all of these things. Like, salt tastes good. So it's in a lot of food to make it taste even better. And it's in a lot of gluten-free products to make it taste better as well. So remember, salt, it's really only about 5% of the salt that you have in your diet is from the salt shaker that's on your table. Very, very little salt actually comes out of that shaker for most people. Most of the salt or sodium that we're eating is actually in pre-packaged foods. So if you have any issues with your kidneys, or if you have issues with water retention, or have been told for your doctor that you need to have a sodium reduced diet, then we should be eating more whole foods, less packaged goods in order to reduce the amount of sodium that we are getting in, or salt that we're getting in. So high sodium leads to high blood pressure, which puts strain on our arterial system. So we want to keep that down to reduce our risk for chronic disease. Okay, so what's in a food label? So we know really well how to read labels for finding out if there's gluten in a product. Let's find out how to read labels to know if they're healthy for our body. So really, again, robust labeling laws here in Canada. Food labels provide us a very strict amount of information, and it has to be written a certain way in a certain font on a certain background. Okay, so list of ingredients always has to be there, percentage of certain nutrients, quantities of nutrients, and they help us to make informed choices. So again, short little video I want to show you, just so you get a break from hearing me talk, and you can watch this short little video on label reading. Oops, sorry.
To make informed food choices, it's essential to have all of the facts. The Nutrition Facts Table is an important tool found on most packaged food. Use it to compare and choose products. Start with serving size. It tells you the quantity of food used to determine the information in the Nutrition Facts Table. Remember, the amount you eat might be different from the serving size that's listed. So if you eat double the serving size listed, like 8 crackers instead of 4, you will need to adjust the numbers. Use the percent daily value to see if the amount you eat has a little or a lot of a nutrient. Remember, 5% daily value or less is a little, 15% daily value or more is a lot. The Nutrition Facts Table can help you make informed choices about the foods you buy and prepare for you and your family. For more information, visit canada.ca/food guide. A message from the Government of Canada.
Hey, gave me a second to have a sip of my bubbly. Whoops. Oh, sorry, guys. Went to the wrong slide. Let's just see how much talking I've done. Okay. So what was really important about that video, the biggest thing that I wanted you guys to hear was the part about a little and a lot. So let's just review that quickly. So please remember that not every Nutrition Facts Table is 1 serving. Sometimes, even if it's just a drink you're buying or a can of soup, there's actually 2 servings in that. So please do look at the serving size to see how many servings are in the item that you're about to consume. What I want us to look at, so depending on what you are specifically looking for, maybe you've been told you need to follow a lower fat diet, a lower saturated fat diet, because your cholesterol is high. Maybe you've been told you have high blood pressure and you need to follow lower sodium. Maybe you're looking for higher fiber to help reduce that cholesterol, or you're suffering from constipation and you're wanting to have a higher fiber diet. So how do you know if something is a little or a lot? So down the right-hand side of the column, you'll see percentage daily value. So if we're looking at this item, so 9.4 grams of total fat, we're going to specifically look at the saturated fat. Okay, 1.1 grams in whatever this food is. So that's 6%. 5% or less is a little. 15% or more is a lot. Right in between that is kind of considered, you know, a happy space to be depending on what it is. So this would be okay. 1.1 grams of saturated fat is okay at 6%. Sodium at 41 milligrams is 2%. Now, these are all based on an average 2,000 calorie diet per day. Daily fiber, 10 grams, 40%. This is a great food item. So 40% is a lot. It's over 15%. Now, not all 40 being a lot sometimes is a good thing. With fiber, we want a lot of fiber. So 40% is good. Sodium 2%, that's a little. So this is low in sodium. So this gives you an idea of what these daily value percentages mean and what you want to look at for honing in on your specific questions or concerns with your overall health. So we're looking, is this a gluten-free product? Is it safe for me to eat, first and foremost? And then second of all, my doctor told me I have high cholesterol. What's the percentage daily value of saturated fatness? Okay, it's 6%, I can have it. I've got high blood pressure, 41 milligrams. Okay, 2%, that's good too. Okay, this product looks pretty good. You'll notice that protein, there's no daily value. This is because we don't often see protein energy malnutrition, so we don't. Health Canada hasn't included it on the daily values percentage. Plus, different people at different sizes need different grams of protein in a day. Okay, so let's talk about what you can't change and what you can change. What are we in control of in our health and what are we not in control of? All of us here who know somebody with celiac disease knows that we're not in control of our genetic predisposition or our family history. I remember when my daughter was diagnosed with celiac disease and my mom actually was crying and upset because she said it's all my fault. And then my husband, of course, was diagnosed a few years later. She was like, whew, it's not just my fault, it's Chris's fault as well. But that genetic predisposition, we can't change that. We can't change if we are genetically predisposed to have a higher risk for type 2 diabetes or a higher risk for high cholesterol. That's out of our scope of being able to change things. However, everything in life I like to think of as a pie chart. So if you are at higher risk for high cholesterol, for example, that's a piece of the pie chart. But there's some of that we can control. So what can we change? How can we influence our health in the right direction? So diet, well, of course, I'm a dietitian. So diet is going to be the first thing that I talk about. Having that diet that's lower in saturated fats and trans fats, having a diet that's high in fiber, having a diet that's low in refined sugars, having a diet that's high in colorful fruits and vegetables. When we eat whole foods, when we shop from around the periphery of the grocery store, because that's where the fresher items tend to be. When we eat out of the box, we're not eating in those highly packaged products that are high in salt, sugar, and fat. Getting help with stopping smoking. If you smoke, we know that this increases your risk for chronic disease. Ooh, not sure what that happened there. We know that that increases our risk for chronic disease. So getting help stopping smoking is an important step. Increasing physical activity. Our bodies were made to move. We are not made to sit in chairs all day long staring at a screen. So at least 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity per week is the current recommendation. So get out there and move your body, and it can be hard. But even on the rainiest days here in Vancouver, you know, I go for a swim, or you can join a class, or even just watch something on TV and do a class on a YouTube channel. There's always some way that you can move your body. So try to move your body. And managing stress. Managing stress is a huge part as well. One of the keys to making changes that work and changes that stick are making SMART goals. So specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. One of the goals that I often suggest to people is let's challenge yourself to eat 7 servings of fruits and vegetables for the next 7 days. So for the next 7 days, what I get people to do is I get them to create a chart, and it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, with 7 boxes. And I want them to check off the box every time they have a fruit or vegetable. And a serving size is about a piece of fruit or half a cup of cut up fruit or veg, frozen or canned. So sometimes I say, you know what, for the next week, let's just see. Let's not actually make any changes to our diet, but let's just see where we're at. Because often you think, oh, I'm sure I eat that much. But then when we actually put a challenge to it, a SMART goal in place, we realize that, oh my goodness, I only had 4 that day, I only had 3 that day, I only had 2 that day, but I had 5 that day. And so we kind of see, oh, there's a variety here and I'm not actually hitting the mark every day. So I challenge each one of you to make yourself a SMART goal. Maybe that's eating the 7 servings of fruits and vegetables per day. Maybe that's having 150 minutes of moderate to physical activity every week. And it's 35 minutes 4 times a week-ish. You know, actually writing down a goal that you have to or accountable for, not just, I'm going to increase my exercise. I'm going to eat more fruits and vegetables. How are you going to do that? How are you going to achieve that? I'm going to eat less pre-packaged products. What does that look like? What are the specifics of that? Write it down and hold yourself accountable for it. One other thing I wanted to talk about is healthy cooking methods. So our food is important, but how we cook it is important as well. If we take some delicious potatoes and put them in the deep fryer, that's not going to make those really healthy. So grilling, baking, broiling, poaching, roasting, air frying. Air frying is one of my favorite things, pressure cooking. So ways to cook that are going to reduce our risk for chronic disease is the best way to go. So obviously frying in too much oil is going to be an unhealthy method, or deep frying is going to be an unhealthy method. Okay, now I said to you earlier that O'Do's was our sponsor for today. So O'Do's has generously donated a hat, a t-shirt, and 3 VIP coupons. And I pulled a name, randomly picked a name earlier, and the lucky winner of tonight's O'Do's giveaway is Megan Perry. So Megan, if you're on, you will be contacted to have your prize sent to you. And Megan, if you're not on, then somebody will contact you via email and you'll get your prize sent to you. So congratulations, Megan. That's really exciting. Okay, so we're going to wrap up by talking about 5 steps for healthier grocery shopping. And I'm going to try to go through these quick so that we can have time for questions. Plan ahead. When you go to the grocery store without a plan and a hungry stomach, the things that call you from the aisles are the high salt, high fat, high sugar items because you're hungry. And that your primal brain says that's going to give me what I need right now. And so you're more likely to make those choices that aren't going to be the most beneficial for your overall health. So plan ahead with a grocery list. It will also help you save money and time and help you get the foods that you need. Don't shop on an empty stomach. You're more likely to buy foods that you don't need. Fill your cart with healthy choices. Get those fruits. Think about Canada's Food Guide and the plate. 50% fruits and vegetables, a quarter lean protein, and a quarter high fiber starches. Try to make your grocery cart look like that. Lots of colorful fruits and vegetables. How many colors do you have in there? Have you tried something new? What's on sale? Oh, haven't tried those before. Let's try that. Go for those gluten-free whole grain products, those lean protein choices. Grocery shopping can be a chance to find new healthy foods. So try something different. Shop the periphery of the grocery store. I mentioned this before. That's where the healthier stuff tends to live. The aisles are where the prepackaged, preserved stuff tends to be. Assess your shopping habits. When do you go? What do you buy? What can you do to make your habits healthier? Because habits matter. It's what you eat or drink on a regular basis that creates your overall health. Allow yourself some treats on occasion. Because what would life be if we couldn't have some ice cream occasionally? If we couldn't have that popcorn at the movie theater? If we couldn't go out for dinner with friends and family and have something that we normally wouldn't have? But those aren't our habits. It's the day-to-day stuff that creates our overall health. So remember that. So healthy checklist, make water your drink of choice. Read those food labels. Be aware of food marketing because they do. Choose foods with healthy fats, lowering intakes of saturated fats, and alcohol in moderation, remembering those new regulations. Wanted to mention that fresh and frozen fruits and vegetables are the same. Frozen fruits and veg are just as healthy as their fresh counterparts. Set specific SMART goals. Increase your activity. Cook as often as you can. Remember what your plate should look like. Practice healthy snacking and use those healthy cooking methods. All right. Thank you, everybody. How was I for time? Not too bad. We have 15 minutes for questions. And if we go a little bit over, I'm okay with that. But if people need to leave, I also understand. So no hard feelings if I see those participant numbers dropping. But I want to make sure that I get all those questions in. So I'm going to invite Kaylee back on, and she's going to read out the questions and we're going to go through them.
Thank you so much, Nicole. That was great. Yeah, and we're perfect for time. So we have 4 questions in the Q&A box. I'll go with the first one I see here. What kind of fat is coconut oil?
It's a great question. I'm actually surprised that I didn't put that in my talk because I talk about coconut oil a lot. Coconut oil is the exception to the saturated fats being animal fats. It is a saturated fat, but it is a plant. So like fish is the exception to the unsaturated fats, coconut oil is the exception to saturated fats. So remember, we want to have a lower intake of saturated fats. So if cholesterol is an issue for you, coconut oil is not something you want to choose because it's going to increase that LDL cholesterol and increase your risk for heart disease. So coconut oil would not be a good choice. It is a saturated fat. Great question.
Perfect. Yeah, coconut oil and palm oil, both saturated.
Yes, palm kernel. Yeah, the tropical oils.
Yep. Okay. From Shannon, I'm newly diagnosed with celiac disease. Do you recommend a fiber supplement, like Gorgum?
Yeah. Yeah, Shannon, you're more than welcome to take a fiber supplement. If you can't find enough fiber in your diet, so generally speaking, we're looking for about 25 grams of fiber a day, depending on your age and your gender. It goes anywhere kind of for children, of course, it's going to be lower, but anywhere from about 20 to 38 grams of fiber per day, but on average 25. So what you could do is you could even just look up and do a quick calculation for yourself to find out how many grams of fiber you're eating in a day already. There's lots of resources online. And I think actually www.celiac.ca has a fiber resource that you can look at. You're more than welcome to take Metamucil. I actually will therapeutically suggest some people take Metamucil in order to reduce their heart disease risk because it has psyllium fiber in it, which is a soluble fiber and reduces cholesterol levels. So even if you're not suffering with constipation, Metamucil can be beneficial for other reasons, but you're more than welcome to take one. It's not necessary, but it's also there's no negative to it, except maybe some bloating and gas, but you get used to that. So start it slowly and drink enough water.
Yeah, it keeps you regular. Is there a rule of thumb for converting % daily value on nutrition label for children?
It's a great question. So nutrition facts labels are based on a 2,000 calorie diet. So, depending on the age of the child, it would vary so much. No, there's not a simple conversion because it would be so different for kids because kids change so much from, 0 to 18. It's just going to be too, it's going to be too complicated. Sorry about that. I can't, we could, if you wanted to reach out to me independently, we could speak about the needs of your child kind of on their own. But yeah, so it's based on a 2,000 calorie diet. So you could do that conversion if you know how many calories they're supposed to be getting.
From Brent, bananas, good or bad? I've read both.
But I love a banana. Bananas are good.
Me too.
Bananas are good. People ask that a lot about super high in potassium. People ask about the tropical fruits all the time. Pineapple, banana, mangoes. They're all good. I never say to anybody that there's a fruit or vegetable out there that's not healthy.
From Kelly, what's the may contain wheat mean?
Oh, okay, Kelly. So may contain wheat is a precautionary statement. So when you're reading a label looking for gluten, we look at the ingredients list, the contain statement, or the may contain statement. And if you see may contains wheat on a product, it would not be considered safe for somebody living with celiac disease. So that would be a no for somebody who has celiac disease. And if you wanted to find out a little bit more about that, we have our labeling guide online at www.celiac.ca. Actually, Kaylee, do you want to put a link in the chat to the labeling guide? Awesome.
Yeah, there's
awesome.
a link
Thank
there for our labeling guide, and we have all of those explained in there.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
From Sylvia, can you review parts per million? You also have a YouTube video on that. I know I can put it in the chat.
Yeah, so 20 parts per million. And I think actually in the YouTube video, I actually show what 20 parts per million looks like. There's a visual of like, was it a penny anyways. So what that is, it's a quantity of parts per million of gluten within a product. So it means that people with celiac disease, so we know that people with celiac disease can tolerate up to 10, some evidence shows 50, but kind of the number that we go with is 10 milligrams of gluten per day. So that is a hard number. And it's a tiny, tiny little bit of amount of gluten. It's about the amount of flour in a pen tip. So really small. And what 20 parts per million is 20 parts per million is the threshold in which Canada, US, Australia, New Zealand, and the UK have all determined that number to be safe and under for people who have celiac disease. So it's a threshold for an allowable level of amount of gluten in a product. Now, most products are nowhere near 20 parts per million that are labeled gluten-free. They're usually, they try to aim for as low as possible. Most are 10 and under, usually closer to 5 and under. So it's a measurement to let us know if a product is safe for people with celiac disease. But the video gives you a more of an in-depth description.
Yeah, it's a good video. I will also pop that in the chat, but it's on our YouTube channel.
Perfect, thank you.
From Brent, can you talk about probiotics? Came up in Facebook today. Useful?
So there are no proven, so not harmful. I've used probiotics many times in my life, like probiotics, but are they going to be beneficial for somebody who's been glutened? Are they going to be beneficial for somebody who has celiac disease to heal their gut faster? Unfortunately not. There's no evidence to support that when you're newly diagnosed, Brent, I know you're not newly diagnosed, but for people who are newly diagnosed, we often get asked, should I take a probiotic to speed up the healing process? And unfortunately, they don't do that. There hasn't been any evidence to support that theory. So we're not suggesting that at this time. There are definitely indications for probiotics, but for somebody who's just looking for a general healthy support, there's no harm in it. But I don't think there's not going to be any benefit to the gut of somebody with celiac disease anyways. Kaylee, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think you covered it all. Probiotics are beneficial for the gut, but it's not going to be anything that will I know a lot of people ask if it's going to speed up the process if they're glutens, and it won't. So
yeah, it won't. Unfortunately, I wish it did. We need a medication for that, but for now, food's our medicine.
From Cheryl, where can Odo products be found? So they do have a website. I will also put that in the chat for everyone.
Perfect. I know that we have them out here, and I'm just trying to think if it's Save-On or Safeway or Whole Foods. I should have known that. Is there an Odo rep on right now by any chance? Because I thought there might have been. That would have been helpful to know. Kaylee, if you see it there, that would be great to read out. But they are delicious. Their bagels are amazing.
Brent actually put in the chat, Metro's, Loblaws, Superstore.
Oh, awesome.
So lots of places.
Thank you, Brent.
Margaret, can you talk about what foods to eat if you are at high risk of getting diabetes?
Yeah, okay. So biggest thing biggest thing for reducing your risk for type 2 diabetes, not type 1. Of course, we know that people with that type 1 diabetes and celiac disease share a gene. And for people with type 1 diabetes, they're at higher risk for developing celiac disease, but people with celiac disease are not at higher risk for developing type 1 diabetes, just so everybody knows that. But definitely you're at average risk along with the rest of the world for developing type 2 diabetes, which is more of a lifestyle development for a diabetes. And it's not genetically linked. So to reduce your risk for type 2 diabetes, we want you to try to keep your body weight to, BMI between 18.5 to 25 is what we discuss as kind of being a lower risk for developing type 2 diabetes, following the healthy plate guidelines for Health Canada. So that 50%, 25, which I talk about, eating sugar doesn't cause diabetes. It's actually increased levels of body fat that can block the cell, that can increase your risk for type 2 diabetes. So just following a healthy diet and getting exercise, not smoking, not drinking, keeping to the guidelines for alcohol, and that's the best thing that you can do.
Yeah, and also focusing on increasing fiber as well. That would be another benefit. So does Benefiber work the same way as Metamucil?
I think so. I don't know Benefiber as well, but
I think it's just like another
brand name.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now, I don't know if Benefiber is gluten-free. I haven't looked into that, but I'm sure it's easy enough to read the label and see. I assume it would be, but I don't want to make.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So just make sure to read the label.
From Serena, recommendations of ways to make or flavor tofu.
Ooh, I'm going to stop screen sharing so I can see the questions on the side too. I talked about my one way to make tofu, and that's my absolute favorite. It's actually what I'm a creature of habit, I must say. So I do just the soy sauce oil, gluten-free soy sauce oil, and cornstarch a lot. I know we do like tofu turkey, which is we soak tofu, like sliced against tofu in soy sauce with a little bit of water for about an hour, dip it in egg, roll it in breadcrumbs, and then shallow fry it. And it's really good. Kaylee, do you have any tofu recipes?
I don't off the bat. I've done it with the soy sauce, gluten-free soy sauce. It's really good. In the air fryer, it's really good too. Air fryer. Or frying it on a pan. It's very good. I like the crunch.
Peanut oil is good too. I imagine there's something that you could do there, or sesame oil. I'm sure there's lots. As I said, I'm a bit of a creature of habit.
Yeah, if you wanted to look for more, I always go to Pinterest. They always have a ton of
good idea. Good tip.
So the next one, what foods to focus on when on a gluten-free diet and low FODMAP diet?
Okay, so that's combining two really difficult diets. So low FODMAP diet, for everybody or anybody who doesn't know what it's indicated for, it's indicated for people with IBS. So a gluten-free diet is actually quite complementary with low FODMAP because gluten-containing foods often are higher in FODMAP anyways. So, okay, so I lost track. So what was the actual question? I got lost in my ramble.
What foods to focus on when both gluten-free and following a low FODMAP?
So yeah, they're actually quite complementary diets to overlap. There's not a huge, I don't have all my low FODMAP foods memorized, but I know that there's lots of lists of them. I think, does Health Canada have one? We have a resource, dietitians, we have a resource we can share, but definitely like fruits and vegetables, there's some fruits that are high in FODMAPs and others that are low. So it's not, it's broken up into fructans, oligosaccharides, disaccharides, polyols, like it's broken up into different things. So really best thing to do is to print up a really reputable list and go through it that way. But most low FODMAP foods are gluten-free. There are some gluten-containing foods, but they do complement each other. So they're not, but they are, the low FODMAP diet, I will say, is a restricted diet that you shouldn't stay on for very long. It's created to do as full restriction and then reintroduction. So we never want somebody, it's void of a lot of different nutrients. So we don't want you to stay on the entire low FODMAP diet for a long period of time. We want to figure out which category bothers your gut specifically. So do speak to a registered dietitian if you want to do that, because it is a difficult one to do on your own.
Yeah, I agree. I just wanted to point out Sarah's comment in the chat box. She also recommended to buy a soft tofu and use it in a smoothie. I've done that as well, and it's so good. You can't even taste it, and it makes it nice and like thick, and it increases the protein. So that's a really good tip.
Good tip. Put that on my protein slide.
Yes. So the last question, trying to increase iron in our diet, and I heard it's helpful to eat iron food with a source of vitamin C. Do they have to be eaten together, or is it better to have one or the other first?
Yeah, so great last question, super question. So there's two types of iron. Actually, we have some great iron videos on our YouTube channel. We have some good iron handouts on our website. One of my 3-minute videos talks about the difference between the two different types of iron. So heme iron versus non-heme iron. So heme iron is basically from animal sources, and non-heme iron is from plant sources. The non-heme iron is not quite as bioavailable as heme iron. So we like to pair non-heme iron with a vitamin C source at the time of eating it in order to increase the absorption. So what's high in iron that's on a gluten-free diet? So we know that most meats are an iron source. So darker meats, beef, and then like the chicken leg or chicken thigh, that's going to be higher in iron. Now, also remembering if we have cholesterol issues, just harkening back to kind of the point of conversation tonight, those are going to be higher in cholesterol because it's higher in saturated fats as well. So then there's some, the more plant-based sources of iron. A lot of food is fortified. So soy-based beverages can be fortified. We can get things like pumpkin seeds, which are higher in iron, apricots. Breakfast cereal is the #1 source of iron in Canada, in the Canadian diet. So pair that with something that's high in vitamin C to increase the absorption. We have been advocating here at the CCA to have mandatory fortification of gluten-free products, like because in Canada, gluten-containing grains are fortified by law, whereas gluten-free products are not. So we are trying to advocate for that, but stand by, we are working on it. But the cereals still are. I believe Czech cereal does have fortification standards in place. So getting those naturally high iron sources is really important. What are some other high iron sources, Kaylee? Can you think of anything off the top of your head? Pumpkin seeds, iron fortified orange juice, or not calcium, sorry.
Yeah, I know oysters. Oysters are high in iron. We have a really great infographic on our website, and I put it in the chat. So
Awesome.
It goes through all like heme iron and non-heme iron, and then the sources of them too.
Perfect. Sorry, my daughter was standing there giving me a dinner bell. How long are you going to be, Mom? 10 minutes? It's hard to concentrate on two things at one time. So thank you for stepping in.
I just one more from Sarah's chat box. Speaking of iron, do you have an opinion about the Lucky Iron Fish product?
Thank you, Sarah. Lucky Iron Fish is awesome. I have one. And also cooking in iron pans. Fry your egg in an iron and cast iron pan. Cook your things in a cast iron pan. It actually works, and it increases the iron in your food. So yes, Lucky Iron Fish works. Put a drop of lemon in it for a little bit of vitamin C, and yeah, it's awesome. They've actually helped. They've actually sponsored the conference before, so they're great. And I have one myself, and I actually think they were on sale recently.
Yeah, I do too. It's such an easy way to increase iron.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I think
All right.
there's one more. Is there an app as a resource?
We have our gluten 24/7 app. That's our gluten-free app. That's about it.
Yeah. We have the labeling document on our website, and then the gluten-free 24/7 that you can use.
Yeah. Aw, thank you, GH or JH, whoever said that. That's very kind. Thank you to everybody for joining us tonight. This was an inaugural run for a healthy eating conversation with this group. So please let us know. We're going to send out a post email, and in it, we're going to have a survey that will ask you some questions to see what I can do better next time, what I can include, if we can change anything, because I really want to make this is about you guys. I can talk about this all day. So what do you want to hear me talk about? So this is about you. So please fill out that survey when you get it and let me know what we can do differently or what you enjoyed about tonight. And thank you so much for joining us for this hour and for giving us this hour of time to teach you a little bit more about healthy eating. And thank you, Kaylee, for joining me at this time of the night on your side of the country.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
Okay, guys, thanks so much. Everybody have a great rest of your night. Bye.